Entertainment and our joint
Right,
venture with Yankee T News here,
right.
Court Rodnowski,
Okay, hi,
on an
folks. This is Court,
exhausting Tuesday night, I
Yankee
believe,
News. Here with
March the
Jason for
24th.
Connecticut Common Sense News and Entertainment.
Hello, everybody.
Next thing you know, and we'll have to talk about the Brownstone Institute at some point. But yeah, so
Let's start off with Iran.
start with Iran. Okay. I will just point out that it was about 2 weeks or so ago that I indicated there was this Reddit clip of this young man suggesting that the 82nd Airborne was going to be deployed to Iran.
Yes, I heard something about that.
Turns out he's right.
Well, I know that we have the upper hand in this war, which is why I don't understand for the life of me why we are now throwing Iran a lifeline. And
well,
apparently there's a deal. Suddenly these mullahs that were just the other day, or actually for the last 47 years, committed to the death of America and everybody, and now all of a sudden we want to make a deal.
Well, if you've looked at their terms, it's no deal.
No.
Yeah, it's ridiculous what they're asking for. And nobody in the right mind would consider that. So you would look at this and say, well, this is a typical negotiation ploy. You stake out an extreme position, and the expectation is you'll end up somewhere in the middle. And that seems to be the kind of game they're playing.
Trump's playing it with them, apparently.
Yeah, so there is something he has to worry about, okay? And that is public opinion. I think that public opinion is hanging by a thread here as far as this engagement is concerned. We know the polls show that the majority of Americans do not are doing this, but it has to be done. So he's trying to, should I say, placate perhaps those people who don't like the war being done by trying to talk about getting out as soon as possible.
So he's playing political games in the middle of a war. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes. As one person. There's this guy who is a highly respected prosecutor. I think his name was Robert Morgenthau from New York City. His heyday would have been the 70s, 80s, and 90s primarily.
Okay.
And he got to know Donald pretty well. And he said, look, the way to understand Donald Trump is to ignore what he says and watch what he does. Okay. So right now, the negotiation stuff is the talking part that properly we should ignore, and instead pay attention to the fact that a Marine Expeditionary Force is being moved into position. It's like the 82nd Airborne is coming. And next, not discussed yet, but next on the list will be Special Forces. Okay, so everything's kind of, think of stacking up a pyramid. Okay, the Expeditionary Force is the base of the pyramid, and then the 82nd Airborne is the next layer of the pyramid, and at the peak of the pyramid will be the Special Forces.
All right. Well, as long as we're not, my opinion, we should stick with the original objective of the war, which is unconditional surrender or destruction. I mean, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know Trump may be playing a little bit of war strategy with what he's talking about. I hope that's what it's more about, more than it is public opinion, because I'm with Trump and I don't care about public opinion right now, at least.
Right. So, and in this, and then there was another goofy headline where the mullahs are saying, we like negotiating with J.D. Vance best of all. What? Yeah, okay, fine. But as far as I'm concerned, look, how old is J.D. Vance?
Probably 45, 50.
Yeah, 40. No, he's in his 40s. So he's young. 40s, he needs experience. So let him get the experience by dealing with these mullah schmucks. All right. He'll have opportunity for other negotiations, but this is a good one because we know that the mullahs can be a little difficult to negotiate with. So I think he's going to learn a lot.
Well, that's what I don't understand. What are we negotiating here? There's no negotiations here. This is a war. It's over.
The point is to learn the process of negotiating.
No, I do. I understand that, but
okay, whether this is to be taken seriously or not is irrelevant. if you think of it as a simulation or a gaming simulation, this is as real world a way as any that Vance is going to learn about how this stuff gets done. And he's going to be learning at the feet of the master himself when it comes to negotiations. So,
as far as I'm concerned, if the outcome of this war, I know that whatever's going on in between is all fine and good, but when this is over, I don't think the mullahs should be there. They shouldn't be in power. It shouldn't exist. There should be no negotiation where they are allowed to continue their little theocracy under some condition. To me, that's unacceptable. They should be gone.
Right. Well,
new government in Iran, period.
I feel the same way. I mean, just echo the same point. They've been threatening to kill us for how many decades?
That's right. So anything short of that, as far as I'm concerned, is either a stalemate or a loss in this war.
Yeah. Period. No, they have no place in the governing of anything. Okay. And so I, as you await the right conditions that will call for their removal. And it's probably going to take force. Okay. So I can only begin to guess. See, there was another here. Hold on. I mean, just because I should do this. Honey child. I'm going to go here first. And
if Iran's mullahs and their proxies continue to exist when this is over, in terms of having any state control, then I know it won't go away completely.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is here, the mullahs had said we're not negotiating with them, and here's a headline.
Yeah, they're denying this even taking place.
That Iranian foreign minister had been talking with Steve Witkoff. So, which is it, dude?
Yeah.
And let's see. Right. UAE, Iranian attacks in Hormuz are economic terrorism, says the UAE. Okay. Department of Justice seizes internet domains linked to Iranian cyber arrests. Oh, here we go again. Tehran arrests another 466 citizens for, quote, helping the enemy. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's just, no. I'm looking for the headlines where the tide is being turned on the street. Just letting you know. And
I hope that there's no let up in pressure until we start seeing headlines like that.
Yeah.
Because when it's over, then there better not be. I better not hear any more about 49 years now. Oh, it's been 52 years now. We're dealing with this. Oh, 53 years now. No. I don't want to hear any more of that. This is over now. We've invested this much in money, military equipment, troops, political capital, all of it. United States oil. It's all being thrown into this right now, and we can't back off anything short of that at this point. Anything short of that, of the end of the mullah, not the new and improved mullahs, not the new friendlier mullahs, not the mullahs on steroids, or not the impotent mullahs. No mullahs.
No mullahs. Yeah, that is if you can come up with a meme for that, we can broadcast it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but so let me just change the subject. I guess we'll get back to Iran anyway.
You can.
Okay. But this, I will tell you, offends me more than anything else.
Connecticut conservative. Oh, jeez.
Okay. What a cheap, I mean, this to me is as cheap and underhanded a trick as any can come up with. The last person on this planet that anybody should consider a conservative in any way, shape, or form would be her.
Right.
Okay. We know that she's a fake, phony fraud, and she doesn't have any problem. She doesn't have any problem going all the way with being that fake, phony fraud. And that's sending a very bad message about how she sees her constituents. Okay. Because she's saying, you're so stupid, I can fool you and make you think I'm conservative. Doesn't matter what people say. If I stand here and say I'm conservative, you'll believe me. That's how stupid you are.
Yep.
So there's that. And then Dave, on the Education Council, we had this discussion. He wanted to bring up to let the audience know, okay, the hashtag I did for tonight is where democracy goes to die. All right. And the answer is Guilford, Connecticut, ladies and gentlemen. You may never have heard of Guilford, Connecticut. But when I tell you, what I'm about to tell you, you'll realize that statement is quite true. So, part one. In local government, one of the most important things that you have, and it is the definition of democracy, is a town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And there are supposed to be certain rights and responsibilities, duties, etc., built around those town meetings that, quite frankly, have nothing to do with the Board of Selectmen or the mayor. All right? Well, guess what? The first selectman, a gentleman named Matt Hoey, who's a terrible, terrible person, but they love him. The Democrats love him. Has proposed to do away with town meetings.
Oh.
Okay, who would ever think? Come on, give me a break. This
Is guy is he a Democrat or a rhino?
He's a Democrat.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be surprised at anything less.
Yeah.
But how dare you? What are you thinking that you're going to say no more town hall meetings?
Well, it's deliberate.
Well, it is deliberate, but it's the same arrogance that Aaron Stewart has towards the voters, the constituents. She has no problem saying, you're so stupid. I can say what I want, do what I want, get what I want. So here we go. Okay.
Well, I tell you, Aaron Stewart and I have spoken on through Facebook in the past, in the past few months. Not about 3 or 4 months ago, it was. We were trying to get her on as a guest with Selena and I.
Yeah.
And we were negotiating terms to get her on as a guest, and she, I called her out on a couple of her positions on Facebook, and she private messaged me and said, "What, do you hate me?" I was getting under her skin. So, what, do you hate me or something? Yeah, I said, "Well, I think you're full of it. So you're not addressing any of the major issues."
Yes, she's
so not. I know that she goes to events, and we'll track her down. We'll get her on camera. We're gonna. Yeah. I'm all in Betsy McCoy's camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
as am I. Yeah. So anyway, it gets worse. By the way, okay. Not only has Mr. Hoey of Guilford asked for no more town meetings, there is a certain rule that's supposed to provide some kind of balance between the parties. It's called the minority representation rule. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So in a town like Guilford, where it's overwhelmingly Democrat, they still provide for allowing one Republican to sit on the Board of Selectmen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in a race. So sorry?
He wants to get rid of that too?
Yes, he does.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't know. This has the smells like tyranny to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to have to make a stink about that. We have to get.
Maybe we should go track him down and interview. Maybe we should go track him down and interview him on camera.
It's worth a try.
Yeah.
It's worth a try. He's a real. Yeah, he's a textbook jerk. One of the other measures is that when you have a meeting, meetings are supposed to be based on what's called Robert's Rules of Order.
Mm-hmm.
Series of procedures and guidelines to make sure.
Kind of like if anybody's ever watched the Twice the Night Before Christmas cartoon special, you'll know what that means. I for this, I second, Carrie, right?
Those kinds of things, but they can those rules can be abused to a fare thee well. And he's the master of abusing Robert's Rules of Order. So I just leave it at that as far as he's concerned. Okay, so this is to sound the alarm as far as all of that's concerned. And I just want to mention in passing, because we're working on all these education issues, it's amazing the extent to which the school systems are doing everything they can to make themselves look good when everything's falling to hell.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what goes on inside the school, whether it's discipline problems, academic performance, you name it,
gender indoctrination.
They just, wow. It's
how about mutilation, transgender indoctrination, bullying in
well,
school boards?
that's yes, those are bad. But I'm talking about things that are more like every day.
Yeah.
Okay, that go on in the school system,
Right.
and
Right.
they do such a poor job. There was a case, just to mention it, where there was this man. His son had been bullied. He was an avowed Christian. He was made fun of being a Christian, and he was physically assaulted. He was sexually assaulted. Okay.
Mm.
And after all was said and done, the school system said, the school system is supposed to have a policy on bullying. They don't do anything about it. And in the courtroom, they were forced to admit that we can't do anything about bullying. Well, that's great. You have a policy to fight bullying, but then when you're put to the corner, you say you can't fight it. Well, what good is your policy? What good are you?
Right.
Yeah. So, my goodness, we got problems here in Connecticut. My goodness.
Very deep.
Right. So there's that. So I don't know if you want to go back to Iran or something else here.
Well, I think that it ties in. Just getting back to Connecticut, it ties into the rogue, the way our state legislature has gone completely rogue, and ignoring 80-20, 90-10 issues, and acting more like a royal parliament than an actual legislative body.
Yeah. So the things I'm describing about this guy in Guilford are effectively no different from what's happening in Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a problem.
A lot of other local towns like Guilford, actually.
I'm not sure we're going to find that many where they want to get rid of minority representation.
No, but where the one party rule is clearly established and it's very difficult to break because of a lot of crappy safeguards that are put in place.
Well,
Ansonia, for instance, Ansonia's RTC is completely truncated, and Selena's down there trying to save it. But
no, it's simple. It's apathy. Too many people don't want to do anything about it. So there was the first district for the state Senate, and the Republicans have put nobody up for that. Nobody. All right.
Ben Proto at work.
All right. Well, yeah, that's part of it, but it's also a reflection of the Republican town committee that covers that Senate district. And they can't find a single person to run. This is unbelievable.
Especially since the Senate districts are larger. There's several towns involved in the first Senate district, so I can't understand.
No, it's yes. Again, when we get off here, it's going to be picking up on the things we were talking about.
We had 40 uncontested seats in the last even number election.
I know you told me.
I remember that.
Yeah,
we're going to line for that again.
What do you expect? What do you expect? Anyway, so let's see.
All that's going to happen is, I'll tell you what. When they start violating all of our rights and start quartering troops in your house and take your home ownership rights away and all that. When all that happens, then people will start to want to help, and it'll be too late by then. That's the problem.
Well, I think what you're left with is, as they say, the ammo box. But let's see if there was something else I could grab here. All right. So as far as the 82nd Airborne is concerned, it looks like they're not wasting any time moving the 82nd Airborne into position. They're perfectly happy to let the Marines do an ocean cruise to get them lined up. But this is going to move a little bit more quickly. It says here, this brigade can be deployed anywhere in the world in 24 hours. Now, again, they're talking about a possible invasion of Carg Island, but I don't know if you remember that other thing I put up about Tubin Island.
Yes.
But even smaller island. And so I am not, who knows what to believe, but yeah. Anyway, should I waste our time and talk about Karen Bass?
Let's do it.
Yes. Well, Karen Bass, as you know, is the so-called mayor of Los Angeles, who was a member of what is called the Revolutionary Brigade. Have you ever heard of the Revolutionary Brigade?
I've heard of them.
Okay, is what you would consider an elite communist organization intended for younger, idealistic people who believe in communism. So she has made multiple trips to Cuba as a member of the Revolutionary Brigade. So from day one, she is taught to be involved in politics. So good for her. She becomes the mayor of Los Angeles and proceeds to burn the place down.
So we have communists running our two biggest cities, New York and Los Angeles.
Yep.
And arguably a third with Pritzker.
Yep, that's right. So
that's a problem. That's a major problem. We have here's the thing. Here's what I think. I think that people around the world that hated America, we became a free country and represented the first true, powerful representation of a middle class in the history of the world. That upset a lot of angry, despotic, dictator, angry, hateful people.
Right.
And then we quickly rose to be one of the most powerful nations in the world. By 1901, Teddy Roosevelt was sailing a steel Navy ship around the world, the first ever steel Navy ship around the world. And everybody was going, oh, no, all the evil dictators are. And they figured out very quickly, by the middle of the 20th century, they figured out they could not defeat us with the military. They were going to be able to send an army in here and defeat the United States. It could not happen.
Right.
So what did they figure out to do instead? Not to come in green uniforms and in army uniforms, but to show up in suits and ties and pretend to like America and become professors in college universities and become reporters and become elected officials and become prominent business leaders around the country to take us down from within. And here we are. Trump ripped off the mask in 2015 and they're going full bore. And we have a major we have an invading army, not in uniforms, but in other pieces of clothing, everywhere around the country right now. Everywhere. Mayor of Boston, mayor of New York, mayor of Los Angeles, governors all over.
All right. So let me just chip in. I don't want to forget some of the contributions we're getting from Booger 414 here. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Ask her, that would be Erin, if she will keep the Obama picture over her desk in Hartford like she did in New Britain. Remember? So the picture she's posing with Obama.
Yeah.
It was a complete and utter outrage. And then he observes, where there are no rules, but each man does what is right in his own mind, there is the least of real liberty. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a better way to phrase that. But we get the idea. And it's, yeah.
You know, I'm going to predict for you right now, we're going to end up with Aaron Starr as the governor.
No, I'm not going there.
Because they're going to, you know what it is? The establishment, these crooks, they want to give us the impression that we have somebody that's going to be on our side.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're going to let her in there, knowing that full well that she's someone they don't care. They want to have her. She's just as good as Lamont from their point of view. Okay. Just as good. And it's all well and good to put the wool over. They think we're stupid too, and unfortunately, many of us are. Pull the wool over our eyes. And
well, this gives me an idea. You know, sometimes there are reporters who have a nasty tendency to tail people like this.
Okay.
I'm looking at you, buddy.
What are we doing?
Tailing Erin.
Yeah, we're gonna catch up with Erin. Believe me, she knows who I am.
Okay.
She's afraid to come. She's afraid to come on our pod. She's afraid to come on Connecticut Common Sense, our podcast with Selena. She's afraid to do it.
Yeah. Well, I just, to me, a few people starting out with some signs that says Erin is a big phony. It's a good start.
That's a real good start.
Yeah.
And she is a big phony.
Yeah. So,
she's a rhino. Rhino.
Okay. So there's this other hot thing here that just came. All right. First of all, do you remember Sidney Powell or Sidney? I'm not saying her last name right. Sidney Powell? Maybe it's Sidney Powell.
I think it's Sidney Powell.
She was one of the prominent people during Trump's first administration who was crying foul about election integrity.
Mm-hmm.
She was from Texas, kind of like light red hair. Remember? In any event, so she was shamed. She got into trouble over maybe Alan want to weigh in on this. Sydney, recently, released the Kraken, right? What is it? Sydney, Alan, help me out. What was her last name? Sydney, not Powell.
I think it is Sidney Powell.
All right.
That name sounds familiar to me.
Okay, so yes. Well, that's how we remember. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not sure who we're talking about, that would be the one who said release the Kraken. Too bad the Kraken never showed up. It took a long time to finally get to the truth. Even then, they're still fighting. She's been appointed the election czar for the Department of Justice as a special attorney or special prosecutor.
Huh.
This to people who have followed this is so weird. How, somebody who is shamed. See, he says she knows the secret evidence and is very nearly ready to give another speech about how she may reveal the truth. Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah. Sidney Powell. Okay. Sidney Powell. Thank you.
That's Powell,
yeah. All right. But she's okay. So here she shows up. Now, of course, I have to point out that all the stuff that's going on right now with Georgia kind of changes the general look. Things start to tilt a little more in her direction. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Same for Arizona. Okay. All right. Well, all right. Okay. So Alan doesn't like her. That's okay. Well, we'll see what happens. All right. So then let's follow the line of thinking that Alan's put up here. The whole thing's fake. All right. If you've appointed her, Sidney Powell, who was publicly shamed, got into trouble, the stuff with Venezuela, then this whole thing's not real. So we will see. We will see.
That's one of the things I worry about the most. It's starting to worry me more and more.
Yeah.
It's very cynical, and it's depressing. And I'll tell you what it is.
Yes.
My brother is a wild, unhinged, far left-wing lunatic, and we're not related by blood. So thank you.
Okay.
And he likes to rank on me because basically he keeps saying I was wrong about the Bush family. Okay, essentially. Yeah. And he's right. I was wrong about the Bush family. I loved the Bush family. I thought they were great. I voted for both George and his father, and I, until I realized that they were rhinos. Right around 2008, 2009, when I realized that the Bushes were crooked and that they were in bed with the mullahs and blah blah blah, nasty people, and it really disappointed me, and it sent me into a loop actually politically where I had to rethink the way I look at everything a little bit.
Sure.
And of course, my brother would like to make fun of me for that. I was right about the Bushes all along, blah, blah, blah. Of course, his premise of his point of view is completely out of line. But yeah, he was right about that one thing. But now that brings me to today. And what I worry about, and I hope I'm wrong, that the whole MAGA movement, the entire Donald Trump and his family are nothing more. They're just a glorified rhinos.
Well, first of all, that Ivanka
convincing us that they're on our side.
Right. That Ivanka is a liberal.
Thank you. None of these people have ever been. There's been nobody who's been arrested or held accountable for anything that's happened at this point. Nobody. Oh, James Comey. Thank you.
Well, no, he's not going to be arrested. He's been indicted.
Absolutely no accountability whatsoever for anything that's happened to the state.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing major has happened to change anything. Just a lot of lip service. Now, even the war in Iran. If that ends up with, we're going to make a deal and go back to where we were, really, then that just adds to my worry that my stupid little crazy brother is right again, and that the Trumps are this is just another more convincing, this whole MAGA movement, the entire thing, just a more convincing bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, more convincing bullshit. Not less
convincing one, because we're going to war, we're doing all this stuff. They were trying to put Trump in jail, blah, blah, blah. Make it look like, wow, he's really fighting for us. But guess what? Nothing's ever happened to Donald Trump. Nothing's ever happened to any of these people that were trying to frame Donald Trump.
Okay. Well, first of all, Donald Trump is innocent. Donald Trump is innocent. Okay.
Of course he's innocent.
These were baseless charges. They were. You're not supposed to be creative when it comes to the use of the law. All right. But in this, what was that guy's name? Alvin Bragg and Letitia James, you had examples of creative abuse of the law. All right. Which is used to attempt to prosecute President Trump.
Yeah. Or it's just a big wagging dog.
Okay. Now, that said, there is where I want to jump in on this. Hold on, I'm trying to shape my thoughts on this.
Okay. They could all be sitting around having champagne at Mar-a-Lago. I'm talking about, Jeffries, Trump, all of them, both sides, sitting around laughing about the whole thing. All right. We got the public pull over this time.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, you haven't walked the walk with the likes of Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. Okay. What they went through in terms of being interrogated, I would say, kind of puts you in a special position. And the notion that they were being set up, I'm not there. Okay. I think that this was a sincere effort to put these people in prison.
I'm not saying I really believe this. I'm just saying that if you look at the whole big picture of it, none of these people have on either side have suffered any consequences for any of this. Everyone just continuing on with their mantra, and until I start seeing some real consequences to the crap that went on, it's going to make me wonder if it really went on at all. I mean, look at 9/11. Look at what happened before. Look at the way. Honestly, the entire rivalry between the Democrats and Republicans, the whole 2000 election thing with Gore and Bush. Okay, yeah, that did happen. Of course, it happened. But was the real hatred and rivalry there? No, it was all a big ruse. That hatred. They all went to Harvard and Yale together. They're all buddies.
You're telling me Bush v. Gore was a ruse?
The whole thing was not the election, not the close election. Not what happened. That's not the ruse. That really happened. But what the ruse is the real hatred that supposedly existed between the two of them.
Okay, yeah.
That was just bullshit because everybody knew that no matter who won that thing, whether it was Bush or Gore, they had the same idiot in the White House anyway. Okay. So it honestly didn't matter that much to them at the time. But now I think it's different. Donald Trump represents a true, that really represents we the people.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I do know, but I'm being devil's advocate here a little bit with you, but
we seem to go through these phases, right, where there's a sudden uptick in activity, and then it fades away. All right, time goes on, nothing's happening, then we're looking at each other, wondering what's going on.
Yeah, none of the stuff Trump is talking about has made it. Almost none of it has been codified in legislation. It's been all executive orders.
That's true too. Yes. Yep. Well,
all ruse.
All right. Well, that's a different problem. That's not him being a fake. That's because you've got a bunch of gutless Republicans who won't take his executive orders and make them into law.
Right. Well, absolutely.
They're waiting for him to go. That's what they think. They're waiting for him to
go. Just waiting for him to pass through. Yeah.
That's it.
They can deal with Vance easier.
So let me share this other thing to you. We started talking about election fraud. Well, are you ready for this one? Now, I think, were we talking about James O'Keefe the other night and wondering where he was and what he was doing? Because we hadn't heard much from him lately.
What's he doing these days?
Well, exposing massive election fraud on Los Angeles' Skid Row. Okay. So the part that's annoying here is that he's made this undercover video, tracks these people who you call petitioners. They go around to homeless people on the street, and the petitioners have a list of names, okay? And they say, I want you to take this name, forge the signature, fill out this absentee ballot, and with your hand write in the rest of the information. And for that, they'll give them $2 or $3.
Enough for a hot toddy.
All right, so it's on. Who knows how many false signatures they've generated this way? but he's already done a part 2 on this. And what I don't understand is, okay, you see them doing this right there on the street in, quote, Skid Row in Los Angeles. Why haven't you identified the perpetrators?
Mm-hmm.
They're right there. You can ask them questions. You can follow them. You can see where they go back to, but nothing. So yes,
no, because they want they're just looking for the views and the exposure, and they don't care about the actual, fixing any of the real problems. I mean, it's
yeah, right. Well,
dog thing.
I mean, the point has been made that James O'Keefe is another example of what you call hit and run journalism. Okay, and they only go so far in terms of actually intervening in the crimes that they're reporting.
Mm-hmm.
I think they realize they have to leave that up to somebody else.
Well, to be fair, they are journalists. They're there to chronicle, not necessarily enforce, but
right. So here's another weird one. Did you hear that the Army has raised the enlistment age to 42 from 35?
Really?
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
No.
What
does that mean? Our recruitment is down?
It sounds to me like it could be, yes.
I thought we were getting the highest ever with Trump in office.
Well, maybe it's
everything. It's a hurricane of lies.
Yeah, but here's the part though that really sucks.
The big, beautiful bill that we passed here that apparently we can't fund anything with.
They'll let you join if you have one offense for marijuana possession.
That doesn't bother me.
Well, let the other exceptions begin. That's
right. It could turn into a slippery slope.
Right.
I agree. Well, that's not a good sign. And I don't know what I can believe when I see in the news and any source anymore, really.
Mm-hmm.
I hear one thing one day, and then a week or month later, I hear completely the opposite.
Well, I don't know about
the bill is going to take care of everything. Now our airports are backed up. We're unfunded.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no big, beautiful bill. Bullshit. Because the big, beautiful bill is going to fund all of this stuff. Do you remember that?
Well, you're talking about
everything.
You're talking about the Department of Homeland Security?
Yes.
Well, didn't the Democrats intervene to stop the funding?
Then the big, beautiful bill isn't so big and beautiful. I guess just the big bullshit. The big bullshit bill. Because even when they were fighting about it, that first shutdown they had at the end of the year last year, they were saying, "Well, this is okay. The big beautiful bill will take care of everything next year. We don't have to worry about any of this." Well, here we are in March and shut down again. So I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to I don't know when I see news stories and these different things about what's going on, especially in DC. It's all I don't really I can't sort it out. It's all I hear one thing one week, opposite the next week. This wonderful thing happened. Supreme Court makes a big ruling. Then I hear about the same problem 2-3 weeks later.
Well, that's because the liberals refuse to give up.
Well, they don't. They
refuse to obey the law. Let's try it that way.
Which gets back to what I said about 15 minutes ago. We have an invading army here, dressed in suits and dresses and different things besides other uniforms. They're an invading army looking to destroy the Western world, destroy our way of life, and kill Trump people. Actually, kill us. And they're here, and that's why we're getting all these fake news stories. That's why we're getting all this lawlessness, and Supreme Court rulings don't really mean anything in America anymore. They don't. They mean nothing. We hear, we have wonderful news. The Supreme Court has finally ruled on this. So what? They're going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Don't matter. So what we have now is chaos essentially developing in America, and there's only one way to beat chaos, and that's by defeating it in a civil war. And that's unfortunately where we're headed. Sorry, I don't mean Tuesday night, but that's where we're headed. It's inevitable. Whether it's next year or 10 years from now, I don't know, but it's coming.
Well, again, the point I want to make is that we don't do enough to shut them down in the first place.
That's what leads to this kind of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do enough to shut them down in the first place.
Right. Yeah, and I think you made this point, but our lovely Senator Chris Murphy did say the people we care about the most are undocumented migrants.
Yeah, he even said, coming out and says it.
Right.
So we have a guy, by the way, on Common Sense, using Common Sense. Connecticut Common Sense with Selena. Tomorrow we have a very special guest, a guy, I don't know, his name escapes me. He's a normal guy like you and me, but he's got a lot of guts. And he went to a Chris Murphy event earlier this year. Crashed the event.
The one with the MAGA hat.
Yep. He took a MAGA hat, put it right in front of Murphy, in front of his fans, and made a real big impact, actually, but then got arrested for it. So we're going to interview him tomorrow afternoon and find out the real story. And we need more. We need more of these kind of things. We have a lot of stories I've been seeing on Facebook actually recently of people around town council meetings and Board of Education meetings, not in Connecticut, unfortunately, yet, but in states like Tennessee and Texas and South Carolina, where ridiculous things are happening to children in schools and the curriculum's going downhill. We actually have people showing up at town meetings and, making very creative and very pointed speeches and pointing out the hypocrisy and the absurdity of these people. I'll give you an example. I think it was South Carolina, in Greenville, South Carolina. I think that was the town. A guy and his wife got up and they had about a minute and a half to speak in front of the council. And the guy got up in front of the podium, started talking about his position, our common sense position, while his wife began stripping next to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to the people of the council, "Are you feeling uncomfortable right now?" Because that's how our daughters feel in their locker rooms right now. That kind of creativity. Another one was a woman showed up dressed as a cat. Started talking about how she wanted to be referred to as cat and the kind of accommodations she expected as a cat. And the absurdity was we need more of this. We need more people to come forward and start making a mockery of these people. And this directly addresses what we're talking about in terms of the absurdity going around our country and the invading force that is coming and wreaking havoc. And every time you look at when I watch Channel 3 and I see the little blonde bimbo on Channel 3 going, "Ramadan this Saturday," I think to myself, there's another uniformed invading army officer, dressed a blonde girl in a red dress, but she's an invading army officer, an anti-American, here to take down America. Some of them don't even realize they're doing it. Some do.
Yes. Well, of course, part of what makes this difficult is that what she's doing is being done in the context of, quote, providing news. And this is just another example of how providing the news is just cover for indoctrination.
Mm-hmm. And they're using our free speech rules, our First Amendment against us.
Yep.
And the only way to fight it is to use the First Amendment to fight them back with it, and that was to outspeech them and outdo them. And the good news is there are so many more common sense Americans around here than there are of them. We're just letting them make all the noise right now.
Okay.
Too many people are not doing enough.
We're doing what I can to make more noise than them.
That's right.
So here you go from the Gatestone Institute. Gordon Chang.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a piece here. China is about to lose its Cuban military bases.
Good.
We forgot that several years ago, China set up electronic, quote, listening posts in Cuba. And now finally, they may be about ready to go.
Good.
Yeah. So
Albert Einstein once said himself that it's not the bad people of the world that are to blame. It's the massive good people that sit around and let the bad people ruin it. They're the ones to blame. Something like that, he said. Very similar to that.
Okay. So what? Yeah. Well, we keep going round and round in this. There would be a sense of certain things being done on a consistent basis that would tell me that we've at least started the process of pushing back.
Mm-hmm. And what are those? I don't see any of them yet.
Simple stuff. It's a little tough. You got to have the courage. Do you know what the term skunk at the picnic means?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
No, well, yes, I get an idea.
Right. So it's a No Kings rally. And you just show up with some flyers explaining why Trump is not a king.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the skunk at the picnic.
Yeah, I did that last year, but I didn't bring flyers. I did it with my mouth. But
okay, well,
I told about the woman on the park bench just the other day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a one-on-one thing. You need to do it with more people. That's the thing. But how do you convince mentally ill people to change their mind? You don't. That's one of the biggest problems we have. You can't. I can tell you just from a point of view of my own family, you know, some of my crazy left-wingers in my own family, that you can't sit down and convince them that you're right about common sense things. They don't change their minds.
Okay. Are you familiar with the phrase reductio ad absurdum?
Reductio absurdum. It sounds Latin.
Reductio ad absurdum. To reduce something to its most absurd notion.
Mm-hmm.
So, in dealing with people who are like this, that we would term mentally ill, yes, you cannot convince them by the use of logic. But instead, what you have to do is take their position and use extreme, absurd examples of what they believe. And
demonstrate absurdity. Like Rush Limbaugh used to say, demonstrate absurdity with absurdity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what these people are doing in Greenville. You know, that's right. We need more of that. We need more of that.
Right. And I think, one of the ways to do it, as I like to say, is with memes. You know, you come up. Memes are where the conservatives shine. All right.
We're the ones. What do you mean by memes?
A meme is a picture with a caption. All right. And the caption is very clever play on words or idea, or it refers to something that people generally have knowledge about. And so you pretty quickly get the joke of the image. With
almost like a political cartoon.
Yeah. But it's a little bit more condensed, I guess, in a sense, than a political cartoon. Nonetheless, so the point is that's an effective tool. Some people have been using it. I don't know if I can find that here. Just give me a minute here. I just know that it's, if I can put up an example, I will put up an example. Who do I want to turn on here? Oh, right. I know where to look. Right.
I think it's time to turn my attention back to messing up Aaron Stewart's campaign, I think.
Yeah. I'd say that that's a worthwhile thing to do. She, but again, you know, I'm just repeating myself. I get it, but it is so annoying that this woman is so brazen and has no compunction whatsoever to lie about herself in a way where she knows she's going to get more votes and never do anything like what she's claiming.
Right. She's really no better than the governor of New Jersey is, except she's just labeled herself as a Republican.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that, that's the other thing. Not enough people have said anything about her bad behavior, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to be, I'm going to say, called out. You know, nobody's really calling her out. So sounds like it's up to us.
It is up to us.
Yeah.
Media's not going to do it. Lord knows. Lordy knows.
Yeah. Anyway.
So you got anything else on your mind?
I've got a lot on my mind.
Well, me too.
Yeah. So it's just, this is more on a personal note. I need to do a better job of how I manage my time because.
Well, that's a good subject. Let me tell you right now, because that is a challenge.
Right. Because
so many things I want to do that I don't have time to do, and that's the frustrating part.
Mm-hmm.
That's why building a team is important. You know, that's what we're trying to do with our network is build a team. You know, I want to profile the towns. There's so many things in my head that I want to do,
mm-hmm.
and it just drives me crazy that I can't get to. And really, most of them really.
Well, when I come up with a good answer for how to manage my time better, you'll be the first to know.
Well, I told you about that legislation they're trying to put forth down in Washington to expand the day to 30 hours. I support that legislation. You know, I don't know, but the implementation may be a little difficult. The enforcement of this legislation can be difficult. But.
Yeah. Think of.
Well, how would you manage your time better? What do you think you can do to manage your time better?
All these valuable
yeoman's effort
have to be thrown away.
You would what?
all these valuable Tiffany watches that would have to be thrown away because they have the old measurement of time.
You know what I do? I set my clock in the house 10 minutes fast.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Okay, sure.
What that does for me is it gives me a 10-minute warning of everything I need to do. It's like it's a mind thing. It's a mind fuck, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know, but it works.
So here's another headline I'd like to share with you. University of Southern California cancels governor's debate because everyone is white. Dumb as dumb can be. You know?
How can we be so dumb to give Gavin Newsom so much press, so much airtime every day? What's Gavin Newsom doing today? What's he up to next? Like, we worship this guy.
We're stuck with the fact that these Democrats are in a world all their own.
We do it ourselves. Fox News does it too. They worship the guy too. I mean, they criticize the hell out of him. I'll give him that. But every hour, what Gavin Newsom does next. Follows a guy like a Billy Carter almost.
Right. So, well, two things here. There's a note here that Volkswagen is shifting to making missile defense systems. You're going to put little missile defense systems in your VW Bugs?
Germany and Europe and France and England do not have to worry about Iran.
Yeah, well, I would say those missile defense systems might be intended for somebody else. Just a little bit to the east there. Something to think about. Yes, right. But anyway, so just to tell the story, I was watching this thing. I thought it was pretty interesting. So this is supposedly a more detailed version of what happened when Iran fired those ballistic missiles at the USS Ford aircraft carrier. So part one of the surprise was, now you know what a MIRV is, right? Right.
Tell us.
So, as the story goes, you had various officers tracking the ballistic missile as it was climbing up and getting ready to come down. And they, someone had noted that there was something about this ballistic missile that strongly suggested that it had MIRV capability. However, the intelligence assessment at that time suggested that Iran did not have MIRV capability. So the top brass were not willing to believe the other reports from the lower officers suggesting that there was going to be a problem and that once this ballistic missile started to come down, the warhead was going to split into 4 parts. I didn't believe it. Well, oops. It split into 4 parts. All right. Now it's descending at Mach 8 from 50,000 feet, wherever it was, headed right for the Gerald Ford. So already they're trying to engage in evasive maneuvers. And then they discovered that on the shore, so this is near the Hormuz Strait, on the shore.
From 50,000 feet at Mach 8, I mean, that would give you very little time.
That's correct, like 2 minutes.
That's
so
much.
So there was a ground station tracking both the Ford and the missiles. So the Ford was taking evasive action, trying to get out of the way. But as it was moving, the ground station had to, would send a correction code to the missile. So it stayed on track to hit the Ford. Now, as it turns out, the trick was that every 14 seconds, there was a new correction code sent from the station. So what they ended up doing was right at the very last second, they jammed the signal of that was going to be sent to the ballistic missile or the warheads that were coming down. Okay, well, so they ended up having to use what's called the phalanx gun. The phalanx gun is your weapon of last resort, okay? And it can fire thousands of rounds per minute. And So I guess they took aim with the phalanx at the first warhead that was heading towards the ford. They managed to hit it, and they hit one of the fins and sent it off course, as the story goes.
Okay.
Meantime, the other three were still heading for the fort. And so they kept firing, and then I think the phalanx was able to damage the second one. But enough time passed that the ford was able to get out of the way, and then the other two ended up in the water without the ford. That's called close.
Yeah.
And that's called stupid, because you guys should have known, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, bad call, but that happens. That happens.
Well, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Okay, well, it just shows.
Hopefully that won't happen again.
All right, well, I think the other take-home lesson here is part one, we didn't think they had ballistic missiles with that range. But part two, that these ballistic missiles also had MIRV capability, well, it sounds to me like our intelligence assessments aren't that good.
Well, at least they're not. No, it sounds to me like our intelligence assessments aren't perfect.
I would say
they're not perfect. We're not going to get everything, and wherever those came from, hopefully we were able to track that with GPS and then destroy the sites from the.
Well, yeah, so they did. So they did go back and destroy the ground station.
Okay, so there you go. Enough said. I'm sure there'll be other problems like that, but over time, their resources are limited. There's only so much they can do.
Yeah, well, I think the other part here is
that landing there.
It's hard for Americans to accept is that there are going to be casualties. There is, if we're going to get results, if we're going to push the mullahs up against the wall and get them to surrender in any real sense, it's going to
need ground troops.
It's going to be boots on the ground.
Yeah, so, that's how it is, and that's why we have an army.
Right. And so again, I trust the military planners are, they're wargaming this to the nth degree, and they're working out just exactly what to expect.
Let's also be reminded that at this point, the rest of the world, for the most part, is pretty much behind us in terms of the Arab world and the Western world, and other than China and Russia,
right?
Iran's pretty isolated. So I think
actually there's one more in the pack that is a problem. Korea? No, Qatar.
Qatar.
Okay, Qatar has had a working relationship with Iran, and they've been trying to play both sides of the fence. In terms
Qatar's
of
been hit by Iranian missiles as well, have they not?
Yeah, but they still see Iran as a friend, and they don't see us so much as a friend. And again, this is because they take their Muslim beliefs quite seriously, and they're not exactly fans of Christian countries.
Well, too bad for them. Live and let live, or die.
Yeah. But the other twist here is, once this all gets resolved, as Maria Bartiromo, I think, observed in a newscast, she thought it was very strange to see this one picture where the heads of all the Gulf, what should we say, Gulf Coast, is that the right term here? Gulf countries,
Middle East nations,
were standing in one room on one stage, lined up next to each other. And she thought this very strange, because for years and years, these very people have all been trying to kill each other. And now they're suddenly going to be friends. Well, they're going to be friends long enough to deal with Iran, and then they get right back to killing each other.
Well, hopefully economic incentive will help with that a little bit. I mean, people don't realize that the Middle East was once a thriving economic center, even as recently as in the 50s.
I'd say it's become one all more so. I mean, when you look at,
it's become a war zone now, but there was a time when it thrived more economically. I mean, we can get back to that. I think hopefully people get back to that.
I'd want to take a closer look at that. I'm not sure that's true. No, they have grown economically
now.
Yeah, because the thing is, if they're able to, how should I say this, build up their oil wealth, okay, with each passing year, they become richer and richer. So we shouldn't be surprised to see things like these massive cities that they've built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they got buildings over there that dwarf ours now. If I'm not mistaken, the tallest buildings in the world are there now. They're no longer here.
I believe that's true, but it comes down to who can put up the taller tower. I mean, yeah, radio tower.
It's really got nothing to do with economic prosperity in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, are we there?
If you're going to be precise about it, it's 30 seconds. But I'm just trying to oh, great. Half of the TSA agents call in sick.
Mm-hmm.
And
then ICE is showing up to try to help out. And we got guys like Richard Blumenthal saying they're going to commit murder in the airports. Isn't that nice? What a slime.
Yeah. And sort of the opposite has happened. Right. I mean, I read a piece here already. As soon as I showed up, they were already able to reduce the wait times in the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's typical of these Democrats to exaggerate. And the worst way those things
exaggerate, not just exaggerate, outright lie to produce violence.
Mm. Well, they haven't produced violence at the airport.
Not yet. Hopefully it stays that way.
So, yeah. So all of that said, so here we are. Let me think now. This is Tuesday.
We'll be back tomorrow night. I will be if you want. If you're a game for tomorrow night around 9.
Yes. I'm still trying to enhance our capabilities here. I was supposedly
we're this close to having Common Sense News Entertainment be a full entity. I have the letter from the IRS, just waiting one more from the state, and we'll be on our way. And you're going to watch. Things are really going to roll.
Oh, like what?
Oh, yeah. We got all kinds of plans.
Okay.
And Aaron Stewart's on the list now, too. Aaron.
Well, yeah. Again, these are things we'll get to discuss, quote, offline.
Yes, sir.
All right. So on that happy note, then.
I'm going to sign off on Facebook. Good night, everybody.
All right. Sign off.
Remember, the real battles between the family and the state. Good night. God bless Connecticut. God bless for Common Sense News and Entertainment. Good night.
All right. Okay.